WA2IVD listening on 195.
Yeah, 0KK. You got plans for the day, Tom?
Working on some projects around the house and actually doing a little more testing with this radio and seeing how well everything works out with APRS running at the same time as the other side. I've been having problems with it locking up, and I think we may have resolved it.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of conversation. SD card was causing a problem, I guess you were saying. That's strange.
Hey everybody, it's Tom, WA2IVD. Well, I'm trying a new recording setup where I can record the radio screen and me both at the same time while driving. We'll see how well this works. Because obviously the most important thing is paying attention to my driving. I just wanted to do a quick video about APRS with the FTX-1. And after my last video with the firmware update, I got a couple of comments from people who said they've been using APRS without any issues. The one comment, I reached out to him, but I haven't heard him or her, I don't know which, but haven't heard back. And the other comment said that he's had APRS working fine, but they didn't have an SD card in the radio. And I thought, ooh, that's an important clue. So I tried it without an SD card the other day, drove around, did a bunch of APRS, had APRS on while the radio was on, and I didn't have any lockups. And I have a different SD card in it now, and I've had this in for a couple of days, and so far, I can change frequencies, I can go to HF, and so far, everything has been fine. So I think I might know what the issue is. I think it may actually still be related to a firmware bug, but so far, so good. I've got APRS going on the subband over here, and it's working fine. And I can do whatever I want on the main band without any issues, and it's been working fine. So we'll talk about what that might be in a minute. All right, a lot of activity going on 20 meters right now. As you can see, there's a contest going on. But also, at the same time, I have APRS going on over on the subband. And as I said in the introduction, I've got a breakthrough. By the way, I've watched the video from that introduction before I started recording this. Sorry, the radio's kind of shaky. Trying to film a radio that's mounted in a diesel truck going down bumpy country roads is going to be a little tricky to get things locked down and not vibrating, but I'm going to keep trying different things so that I hopefully get some better video. Anyway, back to this APRS breakthrough. After the last video on doing the firmware update, I've been wondering with my APRS issues, like, I've got to be doing something wrong, it seems like, because I haven't seen a lot of stuff, in the forums or anything. I've seen a few things about APRS problems, but not tons of stuff. So why am I having so much trouble? And what am I doing different? Well, I got a comment that said, I'm using APRS without an SD card installed in the radio, and I don't have any trouble at all. And I thought, aha, so let's try that. So I took the SD card out that I had in the radio and just left it with no SD card. Went driving around, running some errands, and had APRS on the subband like I've been doing. And had HF on this side, also had just the memory channels and VHF on that side. I think I actually tried a UHF channel too. Not that that should make any difference, but anyway, driving around and running a bunch of errands, no lockups at all. Did a little bit more trying, no lockups at all. So then I remembered something that I had seen in the manual regarding the SD card. And in the manual, it says that you can use any SD card up to 32 gigabytes in this radio, but certain manufacturers' cards may not work. No explanation of that. Doesn't, give you any kind of spec to look for or any other clues about how you would know which ones might or might not work. But that comment is in the manual. So I had a Kingston brand micro SD card, and this is just a 2 gigabyte. I figured fairly safe. I actually had to order that to find a card that small. That was the other thing. In the manual, it says you can use a card up to 32 gigabytes. Well, if you go to a Walmart or a Target or most computer stores today to look for micro SD cards, you're going to be hard-pressed to find an SD card smaller than 32 gigabytes. They start there and go up. So it's a little disappointing that a late model radio wouldn't accept a bigger SD card, but so be it. So I also thought that I would give a try. Instead of a Kingston, I happened to be out running errands, and I got an ONN 32 gigabyte SD card. ONN is Walmart's store brand for electronic stuff. It's their value brand, I guess you'd call it, inexpensive stuff. So I got an ONN 32 gig SD card, put that in the radio, formatted it, turned APRS on again, and been driving around for several days now. No lockups, no issues. So I think the problem is related to writing to the SD card. Because when it writes to the SD card, there is a folder on the SD card that has the list of all the stations that the radio has heard in APRS mode. So whenever it receives something, if there's an SD card in, it tries to write it to the card. I think that may be what was causing the lockup, is that it was maybe not related to APRS, but maybe related to the SD card in the radio. So hopefully this will be the cure. I'm going to be doing a lot more playing around with APRS. I think there's still a couple things that aren't quite right with it in terms of transmitting beacons, but I got to do a little bit more experimenting to confirm whether that's the case or not. And I will be posting another video about that within a few days once I have kind of the data figured out. Anyway, if any of you are having trouble with APRS, try taking the micro SD card out if you have one. And if that fixes the problem, then try putting a different brand in. I can't tell you what brand to pick other than I tried this inexpensive Walmart one and it worked fine. And one other final little tip that I didn't mention in the firmware video, and that is when you're putting the SD cards in, actually not so much when you're putting them in, but when you're trying to get the SD card out of this radio, have a pair of tweezers with you. Because when you open the little rubber cover door over the SD card slot, I cannot get my fingers in there to pull the SD card out. And that's not really unique to this radio. I have an ICOM 705, and I have exactly the same problem with that one. When they have the little rubber cover door over it and the slot for the card is a little bit recessed, unless you've got very tiny fingers, you're not going to be able to grab that card. So have a pair of tweezers or needle nose pliers or something. Anyway, short video this time. That's all I've got. Big breakthrough though. I have not had any lockups in several days now with APRS running full time while I've been driving around and working HF. And I've worked stations while I've had it on. I've worked stations on 2 meters while I've had it on. So I think that's the cure for the lockup problem, is either an incompatible SD card or just having one in there. You can take it out and see if that fixes your problem, if you're having this problem. Hope this was helpful for some of you. As always, thanks for watching. I'm Tom, WA2IVD, and this is Ham Radio A to Z.